everybody. Welcome to the Shelemiah Show. Hi, welcome to the Shelemiah Show. I am your host, Shelemiah GRIFFITHS-JOHNSON, and today we have a very good show. I am here with 14-year-old Curtis Lawrence. He's actually starting his freshman year in college, not high school, but college. Thank you for coming to the show today.
Thank you for having me this evening.
Curtis, we also have your younger brother, Corey Lawrence, in the studio with us. Thanks for coming, Corey. So, Curtis, can you tell me your story behind it?
So it all started when I was a baby. My mom, who is a very strong advocate for education, being an educator herself, she taught both of us how to read at the age of 2, and she searched out educational opportunities, and she found this really good preschool by the name of Kitty College, and there we learned 2-digit addition and multiplication as well as advanced reading.
Wow.
After that, I went to a gifted public school in Harlem, New York, known as Tag Young Scholars for 1st through 3rd grade, where I was on a 3rd grade reading level in 1st grade, and I learned advanced math. From there, after 3rd grade, my dad's job brought us to San Antonio, Texas, where I ended up, because of my gifted education, I ended up skipping the 4th grade and going straight into 5th grade.
Wow.
In San Antonio, I was introduced to a lot of opportunities, and one of those main opportunities was being able to take the SAT when I was 10 years old through an organization known as the National Society of Black Engineers. By taking the SAT, I was able to get into this program known as Duke Tip, which is a middle school program for kids who take their SATs and get a state-recognized score and are able to spend a 3-week college residential program. I was able to spend 3 weeks at the Trinity University of San Antonio, where I took an art and technology course, and I also lived in a dorm and had a roommate as well and experienced college life, and I feel like that has definitely prepared me for being here at GW. One of the second opportunities I was definitely able to have was thanks to my mother, who was definitely one of the biggest inspirations of my life. Was in the 8th grade when I was able to, being homeschooled for that 1 year, I was able to take a class at the University of Texas, San Antonio for Intro to African American Studies. I was the youngest student in the classroom, and I was in a classroom full of college students, and despite the pressure in that class and despite all the challenges in the tests, I was able to get an A in that class. And I feel like that was one of the most important experiences because I was able to be in a classroom with other college students, and it's helped me to prepare me for this program here at GW.
Wow. So you really know your stuff, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, can you tell me some of your favorite subjects?
My most favorite subject is science. I want to study paleontology.
Wow. What about you, Corey?
My favorite subject is math, and I have 2, so it'll be math and science, and I want to study astronomy and physics.
Wow. So, do you like your college?
So far, yes. I've gotten to know people, especially in my math class. We have this whole row, and we all know each other. Everyone, everyone's cool with me being so young and being in the class. And we've formed a small little study group a little bit. And then in my astronomy class, I've gotten to know the people at my table. We've been doing labs together and stuff. So it's been pretty fun.
That's nice. You two went on TV, and you said you wanted to follow in your brother's footsteps.
Yes, I did. I would think that I would really want to follow in his footsteps because he took the AA program, which is offered by School Without Walls, which allows you to dually enroll in School Without Walls and college. So he takes all his classes at School Without Walls because he doesn't have any requirements as much for School Without Walls, so he doesn't have to take any classes at School Without Walls. That's why he's a full college freshman, whereas some other AA program students might have to take PE because they didn't take PE during their freshman or sophomore year. So, for instance, I want to take this year, at 9th grade, I'm taking Geometry and Algebra 2 at the same time as a math. And the only reason I was able to do that is because I had to cancel out 2 electives, which were called Imaging, which is photography, and PE, which I'm probably going to have to do later on. And the thing is, with those two maths, they're mostly, for the most part, different. So it wouldn't be stressful because I don't really need geometry for algebra 2, and I don't really need algebra 2 for geometry. So that's why I'm able to take both of them.
Curtis, tell me about the trip you took to Tanzania and Kenya with School Without Walls.
So School Without Walls has they do a lot of trips. The slogan is "The world is a classroom." So I went on a trip with the math teacher to Tanzania and Kenya, and
Tanzania.
it was a 2-week trip. It was a very fun trip. We got to learn about the culture. We went all around to different tourist places. It was definitely like very fun. It was my first time ever going to Africa before, and it was definitely like I would definitely want to go back, specifically to Tanzania and Kenya, but also just like to explore Africa again. And it's definitely introduced me to studying abroad, even though it isn't my first time going to another country. It's definitely something that gets me more interested in going to other countries.
So what are some other places that you've been?
So my first time going abroad was going to Jamaica for my godfather's wedding.
Oh, that's cool.
But then one of my most important study abroad was going to China. In 9th grade, I was introduced to CIEE, which is a study abroad program. And through it, I went to Nanjing, China, which is on the east coast. And I was learning Chinese. I was living with the host family, experiencing Chinese culture and trying new foods. And it was extremely fun, and I actually do want to go back there again so I can keep learning Chinese and experience more Chinese culture.
Cool. So you like to go a lot of places?
Yes,
cool.
Definitely. China has inspired me to want to go to everywhere, really. In fact, my school is doing a trip to Australia, and both Corey and I are supposed to be going on that trip.
That's cool.
So it's going to be definitely another fun experience.
Just tell me a little bit about you. What you like to do in your spare time? What's your favorite food, I guess?
I do a lot of stuff outside of school. I love to read, especially sci-fi and fantasy books. My definite favorite book would be the Akata series, which is by Nnedi Okorafor. It's about a world in which there's magic, and they have to stop the evil that is coming over Nigeria. It's definitely a fun read, and I'm waiting for the 3rd book to come out. I also like to draw. It's something I've been doing for a while, especially dinosaurs, related to paleontology. It's definitely something fun that I like to do. I also play piano. I've been playing piano for 9 years, and through it I've been able to get better. I've been able to learn, had fun, and then outside of school I participate in school clubs, which for the most part are for helping to find communities in the school where you can talk and have fun with other peers. So I'm part of the STEAM club, which is devoted to turning our art teacher's room into a room where people can come and work on projects with machines such as 3D printers, laser cutters. And so we're currently trying to turn that room into that kind of room. School Without Walls doesn't have a lot of access to technology. We don't have a lot of computers for people who do need them. So we're trying to get more computers for that room so people can come and work. And we're also, we're trying to make it into a very interactive space that's open to everyone and anyone and everyone. I'm also in the African Culture Club, which is a club where we discuss issues related to African and African American history and culture. We do plan the school's Black History Month assembly, which is the largest and most interesting assembly that our school currently has to offer. And then outside of school clubs, I'm in the National Society of Black Engineers, junior chapter, DMV Nesby Jr. In there, I compete in math and robotics. I compete in Vex High School and TMAL, which is a math Jeopardy-like competition. Through DMV Nesby Jr., I will be taking Spanish. They also offer Chinese and coding classes, as well as we have a STEP team, and we also have public speaking classes. Outside of Nesby, we participate in capoeira, which is an Afro-Brazilian martial art. It originated in Angola and evolved throughout slavery in Brazil. its kicks and takedowns are disguised with acrobatics and dance that would confuse slaveholders in order to allow slaves to train to fight and escape. And they eventually started creating towns that practiced capoeira that could defend against slaveholders that would try to come and re-enslave them. Through capoeira, Corey and I, we've been doing it for 6 years, and we've gotten to become definitely better, and we've become able to become stronger. But we've also learned about African and Brazilian culture and history and culture, such as maroon towns in Brazil and the war styles in Angola throughout Africa.
Yes. Also, we've been able to learn about the different gods they have. So usually they would have a capoeira name and a regular name and a capoeira name for the people who train there. So for instance, my name is Corey, but usually my capoeira name is Shango, which is one of the lead gods, which is the god of justice.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yes.
So it's called what again?
Capoeira. It's spelled like capoeira, but you always have to say capoeira. It really gets on my nerves when people say capoeira.
Capoeira.
Yes.
All right, guys, we'll be right back with the Shelemiah Show.
What do you call a pig that knows karate? Pork chop. Did you hear about the pony with a sore throat? He was a little horse. Why couldn't the Wait, heard about the scarecrow who won an award? He was outstanding in his field.
Hey guys, we're back, and now we have Miss Malini Lawrence, our Tiger Mom, here with us today. So how are you?
Thank you so much, Shelemiah, for having me today. I will wear that badge well. Yes, I am a Tiger Mom, and I think that, it's really important that parents are deliberate and intentional about their children and the paths that they want their children to take. And so with both Curtis and Corey, I've been just that literally since they were born, very deliberate and intentional.
Yeah, I myself, I could say my mom's a Tiger Mom.
That just means your mom has a lot of extra love for you because she wants the very best for you in life. And that's something that, I noticed with Curtis from birth, just the amount of love that he took with learning. I knew that was something that we had to foster with him, from choosing his preschool. And we were very intentional about that and making sure that he was in a nurturing environment, but an environment that would challenge the gifts and talents that we noticed that he had. And so the preschool that he went to was a small home preschool where they cooked delicious, wholesome meals. They taught them reading and math and science very early on. And then we were invited to take the Gifted and Talented test in New York City. And so New York City has 5 citywide gifted and talented schools, and kind of like, I guess, magnet schools like here in DC. Except these schools, the entire school is gifted. It's not just one class of gifted children on a grade. The entire school is gifted. And there, Curtis really, really flourished in a school that not only was it a gifted and talented public school, but it was a predominantly Black gifted and talented school. So he was able to be surrounded by smart children that looked just like him.
Wow. So what did you think when Curtis said, I want to apply for college?
So I think even before Curtis decided that, when we knew that we were moving to Washington, D.C., again, remember I talked about how parents need to be deliberate and intentional?
Yep.
I had no idea what school he was going to go to. So I went on U.S. News and World Report, and I said, what are the top schools in Washington, D.C.? Because whatever those top schools are, we know that we have to find those schools for Curtis and his brother Corey. And so School Without Walls was, not only was it the #1 school in DC, it was a school that had a strong liberal arts foundation. It was a very small environment, so that I knew that, our young student would not get lost in a school of, say, 1,000+ students. And so we were very specific about looking at School Without Walls High School, and more so because we knew that they had the partnership with George Washington University. And having that early college program, we knew that Curtis would qualify because he's smart and he's gifted, but we wanted to make sure that it was a program that he would get into and not feel intimidated, because now his whole college experience is going to be in lieu of 11th and 12th grade in high school.
Tell me what it was like when you had to wait for that acceptance letter.
So, like any mom of an average freshman that's waiting for that acceptance letter for a whole month, we were on pins and needles. Like, when are we going to get this acceptance letter? And my husband and I, we didn't tell anyone. It was like the house secret. You know how your mom says, keep family business in the house?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't tell anyone that we were applying. So it's kind of like, you've got this big secret and no one is supposed to know. And then as soon as we got that acceptance letter, I was like doing a praise dance around the house. And, like we really hit the lottery. And in essence, we kind of did hit the lottery, because when you look at the tuition that George Washington University costs, and the fact that our 14-year-old son has a full ride for 2 years and he doesn't have to pay for even books.
Wow.
That literally is hitting the lottery. So we were ecstatic. I think ecstatic is even an understatement of how my husband, Curtis, and I felt.
What did you have to do to get Curtis and Corey to this point?
Well, it wasn't really like we had to make him do anything per se, because, again, he has really loved learning. But one of the things, I taught him and his brother how to read at the age of 2. And so we started there. But then making sure that every summer they had some type of academic summer program that they were involved, that they liked. And so when we lived in San Antonio, Texas, he was able to volunteer with Dinosaur George, who has a traveling paleontology museum. And so, being young, like 13, 14, most places are not going to let you volunteer or intern with them. But for him having the opportunity to mentor with Dinosaur George, it put him straight in the path of what he loved the most, which was fossils and paleontology. Having him and his brother join the National Society of Black Engineers and being members of NSBE Junior for 6 years also helped pave the way for this experience at George Washington University, because he was surrounded by other students that were bright, that loved STEM, that wanted to go to college. And so I'm sure, as Curtis shared, when he took the SATs at 10 years old, it was specifically for the Duke Tip program. But that NSBE Junior chapter kind of mandated that every 7th grader was going to experience the SATs early.
We actually met at the HBCU DC Council at Shiloh Baptist Church. We were actually doing some more SAT prep. So, Mom, you really are right when you say that we have to start the process early.
So, parents really just need to say, just because my child's in high school doesn't mean that you're going to drop off and not be as actively engaged. You need to be even more actively engaged to make sure that in 8th grade, your child has Algebra 1. In 9th grade, they have, geometry or Algebra 2, so that by 11th grade, we knew that if Curtis is going to be on the trajectory that he needed to be, taking AP courses, then he needs to at least have pre-calculus in the 10th grade. And those are things that oftentimes the average parent, or they don't know. And unfortunately, our public school counselors are not informing parents about what they can do to maintain academic excellence in their home with their children.
Curtis, with all Mom just said, do you think this love of learning just comes natural to you?
A love of learning is not natural. It has to be developed. It has to be nurtured.
Yep.
And definitely something that my parents did and that all parents should do is that, I did not always love learning. There were times where I absolutely hated learning this specific thing that was definitely just not interesting to me at all. But it's all about how you learn, and your parents have to find that. Parents have to find, how does my child learn, and how can I make sure that they learn that way that allows them to find interest and allows them to stay focused, that allows them to have fun while learning. And that is definitely something important that has shaped how I've learned, how I've gotten to this point, thanks to my parents.
Oh, thank you, my son. What Curtis is saying is really true. All children have different learning styles. And so we knew that Curtis loved the arts, but there was something magical within him. We didn't have to necessarily force him to go study or say, hey, you need to do your homework. It was like Curtis knew he had homework to do, so he's just going to get to it. And then, some parents, they think when their child is on summer vacation or spring break or they have weekends, that means you're off. No, that doesn't mean you're off. It means your body is physically on recess, but your brain, that big computer that you have in your head, it's always working. And so, how can I foster learning and support learning when they don't have formal school? And so we would do, we would have always had workbooks in the car. We always had books in the car. That tiger mom in me, I'm like, if you're not driving, you need to be in the car doing something productive, buddy. And so whether it's reading a book, whether it's playing, the license plate game in the car, or naming, your favorite foods in alphabetical order, it's always getting those wheels turning and always, learning, even though they don't realize they're learning. They think they're having fun.
It's a setup.
It's a setup, but it's a setup of love. Because again, as parents, we all want the very best for our children.
Tell me what your parents did to kind of push you and get this magic working.
As my mom said, it was a magical thing inside of me that I would just, go and study. And this magical thing it didn't just appear. It's because both of my parents started doing certain practices at an early age. And if you get it at an early age, then kids start to feel like that's a natural thing. So learning and studying and doing all that stuff at an early age, then kids start getting into that habit, and they're able to focus better when they get older and get into high school and college. And that, if you don't just go through school and drop your kid off and, let them learn what they're going to learn, you have to interact with them at the dinner table. You have to make sure that they're doing their homework and help them with their homework. And then you also have to make sure that they're learning in a fun way. If they're not learning in a fun way at school, then you find a way to teach them that same exact thing in a way that they find fun or interesting.
Those are some really good tidbits, Curtis. So let me ask Mom, what do you think is some good advice for young scholars like me and Curtis that can help us grow? And what do you think we can do?
I definitely would want you to look at what your passion is. What is it that you want to do most in life? Not necessarily what's going to make you money, but what is going to bring you the most joy, and then find ways to make money doing that. And with that, you never let anyone stand in your path or say, oh, you're going to grow out of that, you're not going to do that. When I think about Curtis, he's literally loved dinosaurs since he was 1. And I would have people say, oh, he's going to grow out of that. He doesn't know what he wants to do when he gets older. And so here we are at the young, tender age of 14. He's always known he's wanted to be a paleontologist. And so find whatever it is that you like. You mentioned earlier in the segment that you want to be an architect. And I'm sure that probably came from you building with Legos.
Yeah.
And that building with Legos came to, wow, look at the city that I've built. Well, you can either go into architecture, civil engineering, urban planning, but all of that started out with an early love of Legos. So never let anyone stand in your way of what it is that you want to do, and never ever give up. For parents, I would definitely say again, be strategic, be purposeful in what you do with your children. You can beat your child in the head about what you want them to do, but find what it is that they like and continue to foster it. You have a lot of parents that complain that their kids play endless hours of video games. Well, instead of, beating your child in the head about playing the video games, introduce them to a coding class. So now they're learning how to create a Fortnite game. The makers of Fortnite, Minecraft, they started out, probably gaming all the time. So if you have a gamer at home, instead of turning the television off or taking away the online account, find a way to help them learn what their passion is and make money from that. And so that's kind of the advice that I would definitely have for scholars like you and Curtis and Corey, but also for parents looking at how can they support their children's growth.
Thinking back to high school, what do you think are some words that stuck out from one of your teachers or your principal, or maybe even your guidance counselor? What's something that they've said to you that really stuck out to you?
Something that my principal has said and that has circulated around the school a lot and has been said by the teachers and pretty much everyone in school is demand your education. Especially in high school, you are in charge of how you learn. You start to become more independent. Your parents aren't always going to be there. You have to speak out for yourself. If you feel like you're not learning something, or if you feel like you don't understand something, it's your responsibility to go talk to the teacher and say, hey, I don't understand this. Is there any way you could explain it in a different way? Are there any other resources that you can give to me that can help me understand it differently?
So thank you, Mr. Lawrence, for coming out today and giving us this wealth of information.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure.
Hope you guys enjoyed the show today with the Tiger Mom and the Prodigy. I will be right back with closing comments.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
Hey guys, we're back to the Shelemiah Show. So Curtis, let's end this up, wrap it up. So what are your plans after GW?
So I plan to continue doing my bachelor's degree at either Florida A&M University in Tallahassee or at North Carolina A&T, which is a very esteemed STEM HBCU. I want to continue doing my bachelor's. I want to have the HBCU experience for my undergraduate degree. And then for my graduate degree, I want to be able to go to other schools. So I would definitely want to try going west because that's where most geological opportunities are. And so one of my main choices is Arizona State University for master's and possibly PhD. And I've also thought about going to Harvard or MIT because they're good. They have some good geology programs there. And then after that, I would continue with my career in paleontology. I want to major in biology, geology, and computer science. So either if I go to FAMU or North Carolina A&T, I'd most likely major in biology and computer science and have a minor in African American studies. And then after that, I would have my career as a paleontologist, hopefully, and a computer scientist. And then most likely, hopefully, I'll be able to travel abroad. China is a very good opportunity for especially paleontology because there's been a ton of recent discoveries in China. China's a huge place. There's so many things to see, so many things to discover, so many discoveries to be made. So I would most likely use my knowing Chinese to go to China and be able to possibly study there and work there.
So Curtis, I have seen a few pictures of you doing some philanthropy work.
I am part of Jack and Jill of America, and through it we do a lot of community service. So we've done food drives, we've done can drives, we have plans for the year. We're going to hopefully go to a homeless shelter, and we're going to volunteer at in a lot of places. So I do a lot of community service through both Jack and Jill and NSBE, and with a lot of my experience from being in San Antonio and through Dinosaur George's Traveling Museum.
Well, that's actually pretty awesome. You guys can follow me, and I am Shelemiah. You can also follow me on Instagram, which is TheShelemiah Show. I also have a Facebook, which is also The Shelemiah Show, and Twitter, which is The Shelemiah Show. So stay tuned, guys, and thanks for watching.